The Fran 8K, a bizarre camera by a equally bizarre company. Here at the Frame Voyager channel, we cover this strange piece of imaging technology and the stories behind it a few months ago. A story of drama, controversy, and less than stellar marketing. At the time we made this video, we'd covered pretty much all there was to cover about this obscure piece of camera history. One topic among many. But this time, things would take us down a different path. A path of copyright battles, talking with Philip Bloom, and trying to keep the story of the Fran 8K alive. So stick around for this drama-filled finale of the abandoned Fran 8K. Recently, I heard from none other than Alejandro Martin, the namesake of the Fran 8K's developer, Cinemartin, who reached out to pitch a follow-up video on the Fran. He promised the real history, the secrets behind the patents, and big customers, and more. But with these promises came something more sinister, you could say.
If you're not interested in making a video review, part 2, then delete your video part 1, as your video provides damage to my name and our reputation. I will wait for your news.
Shortly after reaching out, I found a copyright claim on my video and the clock was ticking. 7 days until it was taken down for good. Faced with this dilemma, we decided that the Fran 8K couldn't rest just yet. We decided we had to dig a bit deeper into the story. And to dig deeper into the Fran, we decided to follow up on an offered interview from when we released the original video. Someone with actual experience with the camera. And that is none other than Philip Bloom, who is the only person to have an actual video with the Fran 8K. And boy, did he have an interesting story to tell.
I think I'd had some contact with Cinemartin about monitors, wanting to send me monitors to review, and I never agreed because they didn't look very good. And then I don't know how he got I think he must have got my phone number from my signature on the email. And I started getting WhatsApp messages from him, quite a few of them, and then he messaged me and saying, I've got a cinema camera. I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever. And he was like, I'm gonna send it to you. I'm like, okay, let me know when you're ready. Because I just didn't believe him at all, because it was like, nobody makes cinema cameras out the blue. It's just like, you've got to have, you don't go from rebadging monitors, which is what he was doing, so suddenly I've got a cinema camera. But I said, if you really do have one, I would be interested in it, absolutely. Yeah, no, so he said he's actually gonna send it to me. And I went, great, okay. And I was actually looking forward to it because it's 8K. And did I have any 8K cameras at that point? I don't think I did. And obviously 8K, everybody needs 8K, I need 8K. Everything should be in 8K. A joke, but it's you want the next thing, and I wanted the next thing, and I thought if it's a cinema camera, and the spec sounded pretty good, some high frame rates, I think it had global shutter and stuff, so I was like, yeah, okay. And he said he's going to send it.
So the Fran was actually doing something unique, something Philip Bloom had never tried before. A promising start, right? Well, not exactly.
And it arrived in a couple of days. And it didn't arrive like a camera should arrive. Most days I get a knock on the door, a ring at the door, and it's a parcel or two. Today is no exception, but something very interesting turned up, and it's in here. Let's open it. It arrived in a box, just a cardboard box with a bit of filling in it. The box had looked like it'd been sat on by, about 20 people for a week. It was all squished, and I opened it up and the camera had no protection around it, and I was like, oh my god, this is terrible. Hope the camera's okay. Presentation wise, not great first impressions. You expect it to be in a Pelly case or something like that, especially for the money that he was charging for it. You know what, he'd sent me stuff and I couldn't be bothered. It sounds terrible, but I was like, I'll look at it when I get the camera, because I just had it. I wasn't really taking him seriously at that point. I didn't think he'd actually send me anything, and then I did start looking at it, and then once I got the camera, I was like, oh my god, this is shocking. This is like the worst product video I've ever seen. This is the worst test footage I've ever seen. This is the worst spec list, and the way that was phrased, I've ever seen. It was just like, my favourite by far looking at the sort of brochure, if you want to call it that, they had, was has a natural vignetting feature, which was basically you could put a lens on that couldn't fill the sensor. There you go. That's your natural vignetting. Cool. That's great. That's a really good feature. It was just really bizarre. But by far, it was the test footage. And the colour of the test footage, the lack of any detail or sharpness on the test footage, the music was actually him. That's him playing guitar.
But the one silver lining of all these impressions from Philip is that while some thought that the Fran 8K was some kind of scam, Bloom thought it was the real deal.
Because the main reason I didn't think it was a scam is why on earth would he send it to me to review? I mean, it wasn't even in an alpha stage, but he had the confidence enough to send it to me. You know, I've been doing reviews for so long on YouTube, since 2008, and I feel like I've built up a decent enough reputation of honesty and thoroughness that you'd have to have a good camera to send it to me. And I get this with other people, and I ask them if they could send me something, a review sample of something, and I don't get it, and I find out later on why, because it's not very good. And it's the same with my friend Gerald Undone. He's having real trouble these days getting cameras sent to him from companies because he's literally, if there's any issue, he will say it. And there's a lack of confidence from a lot of manufacturers. But Alessandro had that confidence.
But while Cinemartin may not have been a scam, there was one fault they definitely did have in spades, and that was sensitivity to criticism. Very few people ended up reviewing the Fran 8K, and Philip Bloom speculated this was due to Cinemartin's attempts to impose conditions on potential reviews.
And I spoke to this guy from Red Shark News after I got it. I'm like, how did you manage to get, why did you even do anything on it? Because it didn't really work. And he went, yeah, I know, but I was like, it was something new and nobody else had done it. That was why they did it. They did something on it. But I don't know anybody else who actually got it. I know that Cinema 5D at the time, and now CineD, they were offered it, but get a list of things, conditions of what you can say and what you can't say. So that was dodgy. That, if he'd done that to me, wouldn't have gone anywhere near the camera.
In fact, trying to impose review conditions isn't even the furthest this company has gone in the past. Cinemartin even went as far as accusing one customer of blackmail after they asked the company to pay for a faulty monitor just to be returned. The poor PR attitude is something that led to a lot of backlash for potential customers.
If any company makes any stipulations about what I can and can't say, if they insist on getting approval of the video before it goes out, not interested. There's no value in that to me, because it's no longer you being independent. You're basically doing what they say.
And these attempts by Cinemartin to control feedback about their work were a recurring theme for me as well. After Alejandro Martin first got in touch and replied his copyright strike request to my video, I responded to him, and what followed was a lengthy back and forth over email, discussing both his pitch for a new Fran 8K video and his copyright claim. On both topics, he wasn't ready to budge from what he wanted. For the follow-up, he wanted a Q&A between the two of us, with all the questions, topics, and the final edit subject to his approval. For the strike, he wanted my video gone. End of it. Didn't want that story told. Essentially, he gave me a choice. Drop the subject of Fran altogether or make a video for him, subject to him, where he had creative control. And that wasn't really a fair ask for the kind of content we make on this channel, and so I let Alejandro know I was totally happy to talk with him and make a follow-up video, but on my terms. I would reach out to both Philip Bloom to bring some balance into the picture, and the wider narrative of the episode would come down to me. But I was happy to hear and share his side of the story, but not just his side of the story. Unfortunately, Martin wasn't interested, and we both agreed that an interview wasn't going to happen. After some final contact, attempting to convince him to remove this copyright strike before it took effect, we went our separate ways. With the takedown looming, we decided to give our video a dignified send-off with a pre-takedown watch party. Welcome to the show, Alejandro. We watched the video one last time and held a Q&A, and despite some technical hitches, it was a solid funeral for our dearly departed video.
Nice.
After the video was taken down, we had a decision to make: save ourselves the hassle and remove the video, letting the copyright strike lapse with time, or fight it with a counterclaim. Both options had their risks. Letting things go would set a dangerous precedent that copyright strikes can be used for silencing criticism on YouTube rather than for its true purpose, protecting people's work. But fighting means escalating the dispute further. Either way, we knew our video had every right to exist.
I don't know. I mean, he doesn't have a leg to stand on when it comes to a copyright takedown. It's a pain in the arse by far, for you, but it is complete fair use. You're not taking his amazing footage and using it for one of your corporate videos. You're using footage about his camera on a video which is looking at the story of his camera. That's fair use. It's not, you're not using it for anything else other than specifically defined of what it is.
Ultimately, we decided the second option, and we had written our counter notification as the takedown was counting down, crafting a lengthy response to Martin's copyright, detailing fair use, examples of him acting in bad faith and misusing the copyright process, and pointing out that he'd failed to even specify what copyrighted works we were violating in our video. After all that, we placed a final appeal to him to either retract his claim or allow the counterclaim to go unchallenged, either of which would have restored the video to public viewing. All that was left to do after writing this counter notification was review the evidence for his claim, which YouTube sent my way after the takedown took effect. Maybe he had a silver bullet in there, a bombshell argument that would keep our video out of the public eye forever. Or maybe not. His proof was a reference to unspecified photos and videos, and an admission that he didn't even have access to the account these photos and videos belong to. After seeing this, we became fully convinced we were well within our rights to defend our video under the fair use defense, and that the proof was on our side. The counterclaim was polished, finished, and submitted, and another timer started ticking: 10 business days. If Martin didn't respond by then, the video would be backed up. While we waited, we decided to explore one of the questions surrounding the Fran that was still lingering.
Have you actually seen any official documents about them actually going bankrupt? Do you know that's actually true or not? Because I don't. Because that's the other thing, is he may not have.
Just what happened to Cinemartin in the end? We had to poke around using both the Spanish company's register and bankruptcy register, and nothing. We could find other companies of all shapes and sizes, but not Cinemartin, a company active for 8 years, bankrupt for at least 3, gone without a trace? A ghost company, perhaps? So what happened here? Did Cinemartin never go bankrupt? Or never legally exist? Or were we just looking in the wrong places? It's a mystery, and in doing our digging, we ended up with just more questions than answers. Just what are you, Cinemartin? Or what were you? And if some of the speculation we've heard is to be believed, Martin's practices haven't gotten any less strange in the present day. This mystery over the fate of Cinemartin might just remain unsolved for a long time to come. After the 10-day timer on our counter notifications was up, the anticipation was over. We found that this time, thankfully, Alejandro Martin let things go. Our counterclaim went without a response, and the video went back up for all to watch, bringing some closure to this strange saga. But to close out this video, I'd like to leave a message to a certain someone. Alejandro Martin, if you're watching, I want you to know I hold zero grudges, and I wish you the best. You wanted to make a great camera, grow your business, and create innovative new hardware, and that's commendable.
I just really like the idea of an independent cinema camera, because it's interesting. It's something different, but you kind of want the little guy to have a bit of success with the camera.
But ultimately, this is an industry that should involve trust and fair treatment of customers, factors I feel Cinemartin lacked, and that's why I made this video. If we want to see new players in the industry with new innovations like Cinemartin tried to be with the AK, they need to be led by reliable people who can do right by their customers, whether that's with huge companies or indie startups, which should expect better, because the result will be a better end product. Alejandro, I wish you the best with any future projects, and I hope you go into them with a fresh mindset and do right by your customers and users. And in the end, I should thank you in a way for inspiring me to revisit this topic all over again, even if the end result probably isn't what you were hoping for. Oh, and please don't strike this video too. I'd rather not go through that all again. Thank you. If you'd like to see our original video on this and the full history of the abandoned Fran 8K, check out this video right here. It's a fascinating story.